So what's going on here then? You'd never guess.
6 or 7 of us went into the public gallery.
Why have you turned up with a gun?
Because I'm an armed police officer.
We were told that the rest of the people could come in and stand there. The judge, so-called judge, was asked if he was a judge. He was asked 1 or 2 questions and he then abandoned and went round the back into his office.
I am a police officer at the end of the day, just like the rest of them.
We had a suspicion he was calling the police. Then we had the police turn up in the court.
There is a large crowd of people. It's quite threatening now, quite intimidating.
They were very good, to be honest with you, the young police, but we had one policeman, police officer, constable, that was around the back with the judge, came back out.
Be quiet and listen, I'll tell you what's happening.
Answering your question.
I'll tell you what, I won't tell you then, because you don't want to listen.
That's fine.
Tried to arrest somebody. I don't know what he was being arrested for. He was arrested Matt. We complained. We got maced.
What's your name and number?
I don't have to give it you.
I got grabbed by the throat, removed from the court. My glasses have been bent. I've got mace in my mouth for a peaceful protest on council tax.
We're going to take a stance for this, we the people. Everybody must stop paying their council tax, ASAP. They're funding wars, there's no liability order, and are actually taking your wealth.
You could say this is a bit of a witness testimony. 20 March 2023. I was invited to the Derby Justice Centre so I could bear witness to what is alleged to be council tax fraud. When I entered the building, I noticed lots of people waiting for non-payment of council tax. There was 2 council representatives going around asking people what they could afford to pay. The council representatives then wrote down in their notepads the amounts that was affordable to pay by the people summoned to court. A few people approached the council representatives to ask questions. First, there was a statement stating, "We are placing you under the penalty of perjury because council tax is a fraud." Then a question quickly followed. Do the council hire a courtroom for the day? In reply to the question by the council representative, no, not for the day. Another person said, "Are you sure? Because you are under the penalty of perjury." This made me think, if not for the day, then maybe they meant half a day or a couple of hours. I then heard another person ask, where did the council get their liability orders from? The response from the council representative was this: they obtained them from the magistrate. After a few more questions, the council representative said they was going. In other words, they did not want to answer any more questions. In response to the statement, people then started to say things like, they are going because they've been found out to be a fraud, and by walking away from the questions, they appeared guilty. We then went into Court 7. A few of us was already in there when the judge asked the usher if there was anybody outside for council tax. The usher went outside the courtroom before returning. The usher then claimed there was nobody. This seemed rather odd. A number of us were sitting inside the courtroom and we knew that there was somebody for Court 7. We later found out that the usher never called out any names for any people who were summoned to the court for alleged non-payment of council tax. The bigger picture here appears to be that the magistrate hearings for council tax are not processed in the same way as a person for a driving offence. In other words, they call out a person's name for an alleged driving offence before they enter the court, but don't appear to be calling out people's names for alleged non-payment of council tax. This was another encounter that made me think more deeply. I soon realised that if they are not calling out names, then there appears to be something more sinister at play here. After the usher came back and said there was nobody for Court 7, the door opened behind her and a person entering said, "I'm here for Court 7. I now instinctively knew by this point they were not calling out names because they wanted to find people guilty of non-attendance. About 15 people then entered the courtroom behind the man summoned to court. What appears now to be the magistrate, as claimed by the council representatives earlier, did not now appear to be a magistrate, because magistrates normally sit at least 2, if not 3 at a time behind the bench. The only time a person sits behind the bench on their own is if they are a justice of the peace or a judge, or as in this case, maybe something else. Magistrate, judge, or justice of the peace? I am now convinced that somebody is acting out of character.
Sort him out. I need to get him out of here, alright. Do you want me to drive on? Not with this, because I'll... Oh, you're going with...
You're now charged for assault. You'll be getting a letter from me.
I've been called, mate. Until you
should be ashamed of
common law officers. You've got to look and start it off. That's why you fucked up. It's common law officers. Common law officers, you put your hands on. What's the charge? You put your hands on a common law officer. What's the charge?
Whoever it is that wants to make a complaint.
What's the charge? The claim will be against you.
Pretty calm at the minute.
Arrest your gaffer for hiding all the thing about vaccine damages.
This is another common law officer, yeah?
To cut a long story short, the judge threw a hissy fit, left the courtroom through the back door, and did not return. About 10 minutes later, the police arrived. 2 police officers went into the back of the courtroom. Other police officers stayed inside the courtroom and was quite pleasant and talking in general speaking terms. But little did I know then, the police officers in the courtroom was just waiting for the nod to then start interacting. The 2 police officers came back in from the rear of the courtroom and proceeded to arrest the person summoned to court for alleged non-payment of council tax. The police officers did not inform the man they was about to arrest him. One police officer took his hand and started to place handcuffs around the left hand of the man. The police officer appeared to all of a sudden then turn violent and took hold of the man over his right shoulder and twisted him around and brought him to the ground in a violent manner. During this violent arrest, there was no regard for the people standing around, and the police officer's actions caused a man being arrested to be thrown directly towards a man to my right, which knocked the man backwards up against the wall he was observing from. Seconds later, I seen and heard a police officer shouting, "Get back!" and in his hand he had already pulled out his parva spray, ready to attack people with.
Why have you turned up with a gun? Because I'm an armed police officer, and we have a standing authority to carry firearms. I am a police officer at the end of the day, just like the rest of them.
So did you get the call personally, or did you just tag
It's out on the radio. Officers need some help. I'm a police officer.
They didn't need any help though, we were just...
There is a large crowd of people. It's quite threatening quite now, quite intimidating. I'm not doing anything but talking to people.
There's a lot of concerned people here.
Why are your hands shaking?
I'm a bit annoyed with what's happened in court today, what your police officer colleagues did.
I wasn't there, I don't know.
I know you wasn't, I was, so that's why I'm shaking. I'm a little bit annoyed with the conduct of the police officers
bring it
in
up
court.
to me, I wasn't there.
You want to listen a little bit.
Yeah, but I wasn't there.
Be quiet and listen, I'll tell you what's happening.
Answering your question,
I'll tell you what, I won't tell you then,
okay,
if you don't want to listen.
That's fine, lovely.
So yeah, I'm a bit annoyed.
Okay.
What's your name and number?
I don't have to give it you.
NA305. Do you fear for your life? Do you fear for your life?
I don't have to give it. If you want to get hold of me, yeah, that's it.
Do you fear for your life?
In a public office, your duty is to give your name and
It's
number.
not, no.
Do you fear for your life?
It's not, no. Sorry?
Do you fear for your life right now?
No.
Then you need to give your name and number.
No.
It's in your policy.
No, it's not.
Unless you fear your life.
Okay. Bring it up, take it up to someone else.
Let other people
fine.
judge you for what you are.
Okay, that's fine. Will do.
You was grabbing him, and then he sprayed. No, not him. Him there at the back, with the longer hair.
It doesn't matter. We're going to trying to get involved.
The police officer then fired his parva spray, and people were now being targeted by the police in what appeared to be an overzealous, overreactive state of mind. There appeared to be no sense of self-control. By this time, many mobile phones were pointing towards the police officers capturing the violent actions of the police officers who effectively single-handedly managed to cause a breach of the peace with violent actions towards innocent people who were there to witness allegations of council tax fraud. Witnessing the violent overreaction of Derbyshire police will now forever be ingrained in my mind.
These guys whatsoever. It's on film. It's a health and safety issue. One-way street. To be at the back if he's going in that van.
Man, I'm not going to need your cups, am I?
Yeah. If he goes in the van and there's a crash, he's stuck. So you know your legislation, the acting statute. You know you're all acting criminals and awful. Should be ashamed of yourself. Everybody was sat there.
There was no breach of peace until you breached the peace. You breached the peace. Where's that police officer that breached the police? Where is he? Billy Big Bollocks. Where's he gone?
What have they arrested you for?
Assault.
I haven't seen any assaults today, apart from the police.
He was even choking, mate.
I then witnessed the arresting police officer walk by me. While he appeared to be dragging the arrested man out of the courtroom, I looked to my left as they passed me, and then when I looked to my right, I seen the male police officer's elbow up against another man's throat. I have no idea why the police officer's elbow appeared to be pressing against another man's windpipe, but all I could think at the time was that the police officer appeared to be out of control. I then left the courtroom and proceeded outside. Once outside, I then started to record the aftermath of Derbyshire Police and how they managed to disturb the peace in an unprovoked way. All I can say is that everything was peaceful until the police turned up.
We've been for a council tax just to ask them for some lawful questions, whether they're obliged to pay, whether there's a liability order, and what they've done is the judge has moved out the courtroom, so he's left. So we've took jurisdiction of the courtroom, and then we've let the clerk know that we are taking jurisdiction. The case is dismissed without prejudice, and then what they've done is they've sent the police in. The police have rushed the courtroom. They've arrested Matt, and there's been no crime committed.
We're here tonight, people meeting and talking about what happened in the court. How many people would you say were here today?
Well, a good 50 to 75 people.
What has happened on this day is that these corporations are committing fraud, and we went there to ask lawful questions. We was acting in honour. There was no disruption whatsoever, and the police decided to breach the peace. My point is to the people that are out there, yeah, all the information's out there, the correct information's out there. It's all on the government website.
What was your thoughts about the police officer that made an arrest?
I don't know why he actually made an arrest. He didn't give any reason for an arrest, and the brutality, they bundled Matt to the floor for no reason at all. I really don't understand what the problem was. They didn't tell him what he was being arrested for. In my eyes, it was police brutality. There is video footage of myself being shoved up against the wall with an elbow in my neck, and I was just asking what crime he'd committed. I think the police were overproportionate, brutal. I think they were thugs and bullies. And the reason, why did we have to have 4 armed police officers turn up at a court for a civil offence? Did they feel threatened?
Tonight there's a lot of people talking about it, isn't there? What's the overall feeling of people tonight from your point of view?
From my point of view, the overall feeling of people in here tonight is the police have overstepped the mark. The judge didn't do his job, and we turned up peacefully to ask a few questions, ask a question, get arrested. Doesn't seem a fair way around things to me.
From my observation, that police officer who made an arrest, he seemed in a rush. In such a rush, he couldn't wait to let people move out the way.
In my honest opinion, I think the judge was frightened. I think the police were frightened. They didn't know what to do. They just wanted to get him out of the way. When we got outside the amount of vans, I think that they thought we were there to cause a fight and cause a riot, which we didn't. We were very peaceful, we were very calm. There was no shouting and screaming until Matt got bundled to the floor and arrested for absolutely no apparent reason whatsoever. The policeman that came out to arrest Matt didn't tell him what for, and within a couple of seconds of having one handcuff on him, threw him on the floor. Now, why does he need to be thrown to the floor? If he's committed a crime, fine. He hasn't. It was a magistrate's court for a civil offence. So I am completely baffled about what went on, but I will be taking it further because I will be trying to prosecute or go for the policeman that I feel has used massive force against me for no reason whatsoever. In fact, I think it's police brutality and probably battery.
I bear witness to an egregious overreach from our public servants, the police force. They're there to uphold the peace and uphold the law, but instead of acting as police constables, they was clearly acting as policy enforcers and absolutely not representing the public and lawful citizens, but purely for the corporations. Absolutely disgusting.
Don't take for what I'm saying to you as gospel. You've got to do your own due diligence and check out the facts for yourself. Yeah? These people are criminals. And all we're trying to do is just awaken the communities to let people know that you don't have to be in poverty. You don't have to struggle. There's no liability order. These people are criminals. And now it's time that we're taking a stance and saying, no, yeah, you're not bullying us no more. Yeah, we're the people, and we the people have the right. They have no right whatsoever. We put them into power. This is all our land. You know, we got granted this. It says it in the early stages of the Bible that man has dominion and no man shall have dominion over another man. So let's take a step back and have a look at the bigger picture. Who are the criminals here? They're funding wars. These are terrorists. These people are actually breaking us. And there's people that are committing suicide over this, you know, a debt. Yeah, there's no debt. There's no liability order. We've just got to now have a look at the bigger picture and see what's going off. Yeah, you don't want to bring your kids into this world to be paying bills. Yeah, we're the only species on this planet that pay to live here. Yeah, and these have a duty of care. We elect these people to stand for us.
So going forward, do you think there'll be more people going to court for council tax in the future?
Absolutely. We've got to carry it on. We've got to get this proof that we're obliged to pay a tax for the council and understand where the money's going. And I don't believe it's going anywhere near what we're told.
Our grandfathers, our ancestors, they all fought in a war so that we could have our freedom. And there's no freedom here. You can see there's no justice whatsoever. I mean, they've got a sign up there saying it's a justice centre. It's not, it's an administrative court, yeah? There's no standing whatsoever. It doesn't even say it's a court, yeah? And they're making offers for people to pay. It's disgusting what they're doing. And now we're taking a stance as the people, yeah? And I want every man and woman to have a think about what I'm saying, because it's time that we put a stop to it. The criminals need to be going to prison for what they're doing. It's crimes against humanity.
Due to the Criminal Justice Act 1925, Section 41, subsection 1b, I would be committing an offence if I was to include the video footage of the various multiple camera angles from people who only chose to video record in the courtroom because they either anticipated a crime was about to take place, whether it be for alleged council tax fraud or police violence. It is deemed a criminal offence to record in a courtroom. Would you record in a courtroom if you suspect a crime is about to be committed? The system appears to be rigged in their favour. So let's just read a little bit more about the Criminal Justice Act 1925, Section 41, Prohibition on taking photographs. Subsection 1, no person shall a. Take or attempt to take in any court any photograph, or with a view to publication make or attempt to make in any court, or any portrait or sketch of any person, being a judge of the court, or a juror, or a witness, in or a party to any proceeding before the court, whether civil or criminal. Or b. Publish any photograph, portrait or sketch taken or made in contravention of the foregoing provisions of this section or any reproduction thereof. I am actually trying to understand this. According to the Criminal Justice Act 1925, Section 41, subsection 1a, it does appear to be making a point to take a photograph, or a video, should we say, for reference, of any person, comma, being a judge. Now that's a stipulation, or is that just of any person? But the fact that it says of any person, comma, being a judge of the court, or a juror, or a witness in or a party to any proceeding before the court, whether civil or criminal. Any person means all of those things, but the very fact that it states being a judge of the court, or a juror, or a witness, all these are party to any proceedings before the court, whether civil or criminal. So the offence doesn't actually appear to be straightforward. Does it mean you can take photographs and video in a court so long as you do not include a judge of the court, or a juror, or a witness, or a party to any proceedings before the court? That is something that's making me think a little bit more about. Maybe in the future, this video footage will become public knowledge. But in the meantime, let's not risk it. Let's just read a little bit further down. Subsection 2a, the expression court means any court of justice, including the court of a coroner, Apart from the Supreme Court, of course, because they're supreme and they can make their own rules up as they go along anyway. But that's beside the point. A court can be in a justice centre, and if it's a room inside a justice centre, whether it be a courtroom or not, the fact that a court is set up in the room, whether it be hired or not, things may fall into that jurisdiction. So just to read a little bit further, to C. A photograph, portrait or sketch shall be deemed to be a photograph, portrait or sketch taken or made in court if it is taken or made in the courtroom. Now then, we was in the courtroom, or in the building, so that's not in the courtroom, or in the precincts of the building in which the court is held. Or if it is a photograph, portrait or sketch taken or made of the person while he is entering or leaving the courtroom, or any such building or precincts as aforesaid. But basically meaning, you can't be taking photographs of any person, being a judge or a juror or a witness, or any party to any proceedings before the court, whether criminal or civil. Does it mean you can actually take photographs in the buildings, in the courtrooms and the precincts? What do you think?
This is a civil matter and the police should not be here, yeah? We was asking lawful questions, the judge didn't like the questions that were being asked, they're committing fraud and we're actually going to take them down. The police are assisting them, they can't hide behind the corporations no more. We're going to take a stance for this, we the people. Everybody must stop paying their council tax, ASAP. They're funding wars, there's no liability order and they're actually taking your wealth. So think about it, people.